Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to another edition of B-Ball Breakdown. And today I'm excited to have Matt Moore, who is the senior blogger for CBSSports.com and the weekend editor for ProBasketballTalk.com. Matt, are you there with us?
I am. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for coming on a very special Sunday edition where we have lots to talk about. I thought we'd get your opinion right now on the Spurs and Clippers series. What is your take on these last three games?
The Spurs are better in pretty much every single way. I actually picked the Clippers, and there is not a series I look dumber for having picked than that at this point. I thought that Blake Griffin would have a better chance with his athleticism against the Spurs defenders. Boris Diaw really impressed me, and the Spurs defense, their help defense has gotten a lot better than it was in the middle of the season. Chris Paul is obviously struggling, whether it's with the knee or the defense or whatever, and when he's out, when he's not able to produce, specifically when he's not able to score, they're just not the same team. We're finding out that all those guys that stepped up in the Grizzlies series are who we thought they were. Reggie Evans, Kenyon Martin, those guys are at the level that we actually thought they were and not the supreme performers that they were in that Grizzlies series. And in reality, the Spurs are just better in nearly every way.
It's funny. I think what would make the Clippers really concerned is that Tony Parker barely scored, and they still blew him out. And so it shows you, the depth and the ability that the Spurs have. I kind of liken it to the Packers in the 60s with their sweep, because they'll run a pick and roll and spot somebody up on the weak side corner for the three. You know it's coming. Everybody knows it's coming. And yet, I have to tell you, I went through frame by frame on a couple of those, and when they do it right, there isn't any way to stop it.
Yeah, no, they're built upon the whole premise of not trying to confound you or trying to fool you or trying to trick you in any way. They're simply going to they're going to put you in a position where it's an impossible decision for the defenders. The defenders having to select which poison he's going to have to pick, and that most of that comes from Parker and Ginobili's ability to run the pick and roll. With their ability to not only drive to the basket, but be able to pull back if you go under and knock down the shot from mid-range, that starts it, and then you're going to bring help over to try and shut that down. And once that happens, they're able to kick out to the shooters, and their spacing is so good, from Danny Green to Gary Neal to Kawhi Leonard to Steven Jackson. Everyone not only is able to hit the shot, but they know where to be, how to catch, and how to execute that play. It puts you in a position where there's really no way to counter it.
And I think what I mentioned when I broke down their offense is that they're interchangeable. So what most teams do is have the same guys attack from the same positions every single time, and it gets easy to put your defense in position to stop that, where you'll have Kawhi Leonard in the corner one time, you'll have him on the strong side, you'll have him on the high post, you'll have him on the wing. You'll never know where any of these guys attack from. Manu especially will run the point, and then he'll run the wing. So it really boggles my mind that more coaches either don't understand this or don't know how to teach that.
Yeah, I think it really just speaks to Popovich and the fact that he's able to get guys to really surrender their ego. You're looking at, and that's one of the reasons they drafted Kawhi Leonard, because they interviewed him and knew that he was going to be that type of guy, and he's willing to go out there and do those things. And you have to have smart players, and that's a commodity in this league. Having guys that are able to understand the system and are willing to commit the time to learn it. And it just speaks to the overall health of the organization. Speaking
of smart players, let's move on to the Lakers and OKC, because there definitely seems to be a lack of smartness going on out there to some degree. What are you seeing in that series?
What do you mean? What do you mean by lack of intelligence there?
Well, I got to tell you, the final play when the Lakers lost in game 3 was mind-bogglingly stupid, as far as if you wanted to get it to Kobe, setting a double screen where he was going to double back to the weak side and never be able to catch that ball. I like the shot that Blake made, but I'm scratching my head on a couple of those. And certainly the Kobe entry to Powell at the high post where he throws a lob that goes right to Durant. Excuse me, my light is falling. Sorry. It was not the most intelligent basketball.
No, I think the Lakers have struggled really with a struggle with decision making. I don't know. I have problems with the Blake play, because what's your objective? To get a high percentage shot in a situation in which you must score. You want an open shooter.
Yeah.
And they created that. They had an open shooter who had hit 5 threes in Game 7 versus Denver, in the corner, in the highest percentage three-point area possible with an open look. I think that play was fine. It's one where it's like, well, yeah, but they should have gotten it to Bryant. And you look at the shots that Kobe Bryant took in game 4, I don't know that you're going to get a high-quality shot out of that. Bryant opts for tough shots. That's what he does. He's made them so often that he thinks he can still make them at a ridiculously high percentage, and the reality is that that's just simply not true anymore. So, I think that play in particular was okay, but where you start to get in problems is their execution. I don't look at their play sets as the issue. It's the execution. I think Mike Brown's getting unfairly killed because Kobe Bryant is taking bad shots, breaking the offense, not looking for Andrew Bynum, running, taking shots under the pick and roll at 30 feet. When you have that kind of decision making, you're not going to come out on top. You have to work. You talk about the difference between the Spurs and the Lakers. The Spurs are working for high quality shots from shooters that can knock them down. The Lakers are pretty much just running, in large part, whatever Kobe would like to run for whatever tough shot he thinks is going to be a quality shot. And then when you ask him about it, he dismisses it because he's Kobe Bryant. And that's really the difference why the Spurs are going to be advancing the Western Conference Finals and the Lakers are more likely going home.
Well, you do know, I don't know if you've seen our past videos, but I am one of Kobe's biggest fans.
I'm sure you are. I'm just letting you know. Like, you can be his biggest fan. I'm not saying that he's not a great player. I consider Kobe Bryant to be probably in the top 3 all-time of players in this league. He's amazing. He had a shot last night over Harden that is honestly one of the most amazing basketball shots I've ever seen, and it's routine for him. I said on Twitter, only Kobe.
By the way, you truly revealed that you haven't watched this, because for the last 2 years, I've been the biggest Kobe basher of all time.
Well, I apologize because it's one where I've tried to make time. I've seen some of your videos. I haven't heard you talk about Kobe.
I do them where after I bash him at the end, you'll hear the crowd banging on my door with torches and pitchforks ready to kill me because, without a doubt, everything you said about Kobe is. By the way, if he would just play like Rip Hamilton, he would probably score 40 points a game and shoot 55% from the field, and it'd be the easiest game of all time for him. So there's no argument for me. I just want to argue with you because I feel like that's more interesting.
Right. No, and it's one where you talk about should you get the ball? I mean, it does pose an interesting basketball question though, and I'd like to ask you that. Is there an obligation in those closing moments to get the ball to your best player, your best shooter? Well, not best shooter because he's actually not now, but your best player overall. Or should the objective be to create an open look?
I will say this, because LeBron gets the same problem. He'll make the pass and the right play. Anybody that criticizes someone like LeBron for making that play for the best shot, it doesn't like that. It doesn't coach. It has never been part of a team at an upper level because there's no question that Steve Blake shot is the right shot. It's what you're supposed to do, and that's what a coach would want every single time, the highest percentage, like you said. So, I have never had a problem with LeBron doing what he does there, and I have a huge problem with Kobe doing what he does because, again, he's made a few, but they've shown already in all these statistics that in the last, 8 years, he is way below average in shooting percentage in the clutch because of those difficult shots. So, my only question, though, with the whole Bynum thing and not posting up is, if Mike Brown is trying to call a play that will get him the ball in the post and they're not doing it, then that's still on Mike Brown because they're not listening to him. And if he's not calling those plays to get the ball down to Bynum in the post, then it's on him again because he's not controlling the game the way he's supposed to.
I would say that, I think that's a legitimate complaint. And one thing last night, they fronted Bynum, and that was pretty much what ended. I mean, Kobe Bryant and everyone said that after the game was they fronted Bynum, and when they fronted him, I found it odd, though, because it was basically like, well, they fronted him. And it's like, Andrew Bynum's 7 feet tall. If you throw the ball high to him, he's still going to catch it. You can't front Andrew Bynum with Kendrick Perkins. He's not tall enough. That's just not going to work. If he turns and catches, even if he turns, the risk there is, if he gets an offensive foul on the turn, if Ibaka's coming up behind him, they haven't called that in this entire series. They've called very little contact inside. So you've got a really great chance of Bynum being a foot from the basket with Perkins climbing over his back, with an ability to score. I think that, really, I have a hard time blaming anybody for not, Brown specifically, for this group of players, for not being able to get the guys to buy in, because this is the NBA, and that's just not, the guys have to choose to buy in. You talk about, he has to convince them. It's really difficult. If those guys choose not to, if those guys decide that they're going to, they have what they want, if they're a stubborn, egotistical group of players, the opposite of what the Spurs are, that's going to have problems. And everybody in this league has issues. And I think that Mike would have had issues not just with these players, but with other players in a similar situation coming in where they've won multiple titles. They've played under a coach that let them do whatever they wanted because he won championships with them because of their talent. I think it would have been the same kind of problem. I think Brown hasn't done a great job, but I think he gets scapegoated a lot when a lot of the problem is execution decision making.
Well, okay. There are some coaches out there that don't have that problem, though, and then whether or not it's built in because Phil Jackson had those rings already. But remember, he didn't have the rings in the beginning, and he was able to convince Michael to play the way he needed him to do it. So I don't know if Mike Brown possesses that gene that allows him to get through to players where like Popovich can. But it is interesting to look at, certainly, because you never know. And as a coach, I know. Listen, and by the way, as far as the lob goes, it ain't easy to lob it over a guy who's almost 6'9", 6'10". But I'm going to show you tomorrow. I'm going to get my players out in the court, and I'm going to show you the correct way to adjust and to attack a fronting post. And when you do it, they will have to stop fronting. So stay tuned for that, because I just had that idea this morning. I'm going to get my guys out there because it seems so simple, and yet they're not doing it, and it's frustrating the hell out of me to watch. Well, let's move on real quick to the Heat Pacers preview for today. It is pretty much the Heat season on the line, down 2-1 in Indianapolis. And so who do you think is going to win this game today?
It's tough. I hesitate because every time I think, well, the Heat have to respond here. Surely the Heat will respond. I thought that last year's finals, and they didn't. They just kind of rolled over and died. But then I've also been like, well, the Heat are not going to be able to match them. They're just not going to match their toughness. They're going to lay down. They're going to get beat down. I thought that in both the Boston and Chicago series. No, the Heat went out there and ran them. I'm done trying to predict when this Heat team's going to show up. I'm done with that. I think we know that the Pacers are going to show. The problem is that if the Heat play to their potential, even without Bosh, they're going to be able to win this game. Joel Anthony is a better defender than he's shown in this series. I think Udonis Haslem, he's struggled a lot, but I think he's a better player than he's shown in the series. Dwyane Wade specifically is in a position to kind of have the statement game of his career. He needs to play well. Mm-hmm. Either result would not surprise me. And trying to predict the Heat, to me, it's a lost cause because they're too mentally inconsistent. Yeah. To find what they're going to do. I think that Dwyane Wade, what's boggling to me, and this is also on Spoelstra, is that they're not posting up enough, and they're not getting him in situations where he can attack. So I showed this in the video we just did was, I almost don't blame, it's not like I don't blame Wade, but I understand his frustration having to run to the corner and stand there for 80% of his offensive possessions. And they don't use him very well. And they've gone away from a lot of the great sets they've had this year. And I don't know if it's, Spoelstra getting caught up in the moment or maybe not being able to get through, but it's really frustrating for everybody, no doubt. That said, I think we might have seen Indiana grow up right before our very eyes in this last game. And if they get that kind of confidence rolling again, I don't think, Hibbert, 19 points isn't the most monster game, and he had a lot of rebounds, but clearly they don't have an answer for him, and you cannot play Joel Anthony down the stretch with 4-on-5 with a team that already has issues scoring. And so that's a real problem as well. I don't know why they don't rely on, I would take Turioff or even Haslem in there instead of Anthony. Yeah, I think Turioff is probably that. That's why he started so much. I think that Turioff is great at moving off ball. Really, but you're not going to get scoring from those guys. The reality is that Wade and James are going to have to carry him, and the outside shooters are going to have to knock down shots. And that's been an outlier. Let's be honest. The Heat have shot poorly in the series to an outlier degree to which you really can't predict. So I think that there's a good chance that those shooters and Battier and Chalmers and everybody else kind of gets loose and gets hot and knocks down a few of them. If you knock down a few of them, they're going to be right there to win that game. Mm-hmm. Hibbert's going to be a problem. The problem is that the Pacers have done what we all talk about with the Heat, where it's like, why isn't LeBron posting? Why isn't Wade posting? The Pacers have put Hibbert, and they've said, we're going to get the ball to the big guys. We're going to get West, and we're going to get Hibbert involved, and that's going to be the function of our offense. We're not going to rely on Danny Granger's mid-range shot. And if the Pacers keep doing that and the Heat don't find a way to adjust, they are going to lose this game and they are going to lose the series. Yes, and strangely enough, I didn't think that West would have such an advantage in the post against LeBron, but he's been abusing him down there. And the other reason why they don't want to post Wade, by the way, is when you have someone like Paul George guarding him, it's a real difficult thing. I actually think that Paul George is better on LeBron.
and you can save Granger for the offense because it's tiring him out. But they're letting Paul George play both, and he's got a lot of energy, and he is going to be the man on that team. There's no doubt in my mind that within the next year or so, when he develops a complete offensive game, he's going to be the best player on that team. And he's already shown flashes, and not just scoring, like defense and rebounding and making plays, but that he could be a top player for a long time.
Which is incredible because, we watched him in Summer League, and his biggest problem was he couldn't dribble. I mean, the guy could not dribble. He just simply had no handle, and he kept trying to, and it was awkward and bad. And I really credit Vogel for having found a niche for him running off screens to get catch and shoot opportunities. And with his length, when he rises up from that mid-range, elbow area, it's just deadly because he's got such length. You're already got separation coming off the screen, and when he catches and shoots, he's going to work on that and work on that and work on that. And if he commits himself to that and not trying to create off the dribble, he's going to be simply deadly. And there's very little way to stop it as long as you have a good screener in place.
Yeah, and we're going to give him a post game this summer, and then he'll be dominating. Well, Matt, I really appreciate you coming on. We had a great talk. We went a little bit over, but we're having such a good time. So please come back. We'll do this again as we get further in the playoffs. And stay tuned, sports fans, for lots more coming up on B-Ball Breakdown.